Sayego, everyone. We will be beginning our midwinter teaching series. I will not be going into very great detail about midwinter. It's just going to be a brief overview of it all and the teachings behind it. I don't really feel like it's my place to be speaking on what exactly goes on during each ceremony because midwinter lasts for 7 days. But I will kind of touch base on, the general topics and the ideas and the teachings behind it. So just like going, into it, midwinters is when we renew things. It's when we stir the ashes back up. We renew everything and give thanks for the upcoming year that we will be having. I remember being little and we never celebrated Christmas. I always was the outcast. I never, my family didn't celebrate, so I always felt weird when people would ask me, like, what did we do for Christmas? So I would just tell them about midwinter, and I would always say, well, that's kind of like our Christmas, because in a way, it was, because that was when we not show off, but, we would wear our new ribbon skirts, our ribbon shirts, and we would wear our new moccasins. We kind of spent the month of December and possibly November getting ourselves ready for that. We're getting what we would put in for the Peachstone game and, giving ourselves new beaded sets, outfits and everything. So that was kind of what we did in our family. So just some general things too, going along with the longhouse and, in our longhouse, the women always came in from the right side and the men came on the left side, and then you have your longhouse split in half. So the women would sit on the right side, men would sit on the left side. And then on the northern facing side, you had your wolves and your turtles, and then the bears and any visiting clans or relative clans would sit on the south side with the bears. There is a spot in midwinter where, the wolves and turtles would come in through the left side, and then the bears and, the visiting clans, the relative clans would come in on the right side. And in the middle of midwinters, that switches back. So I always made sure I asked before I went to the ceremonies, what door do I come in? Because I often forget. It's always one of those things that I always make sure I ask my cousin, my grandma, what door we go in, and make sure that I'm going in the correct door. And when you walk into Longhouse, you always make sure you have respect for everybody. I'll just share like a little story. When I was younger, I was probably in my early teens, and I remember going outside with my friend. And in Longhouse, that's when you make sure you're quiet, you're respectful, so that everybody can listen to the person who is talking. The longhouse I come from, we have a pretty big longhouse, so you want to make sure you're respectful for everybody because everybody is trying to listen. And so if you're trying to talk, you're either, whisper or, you wait, make sure you go outside longhouse, maybe in the cookhouse or when you're going to the bathrooms to talk. And it gets hot in there. Even in the middle of winter, everybody's dancing, so much body heat. It gets really hot in there. And when I was a young teenager, I remember me and my friend, we went outside to cool off a little bit. And we're outside and we seen our other friend and we were talking and laughing. And then we heard it go quiet. And we thought maybe the guy is speaking, because when a guy is speaking, out of respect, you sit down and you listen. You're not getting up to go outside. And if you're coming in from, inside, you're not, walking past everyone to get to your seat. You're kind of waiting by the door out of respect for him to stop talking. And then you go back to your seat. So we made the decision to go inside. And when we came inside, everyone was staring at us. And I look over and I just see my mom and my grandma just shaking their heads at me. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what did we do, because everyone's staring at us. And when we went to sit down, I asked, like, what happened? And they said, he was standing up to talk. And when he got done, it got really quiet. Everybody could hear you guys laughing and talking outside. And at first, my parents were upset because, they were just a little bit embarrassed because you could hear me laughing. And if you know me, my laugh is pretty distinctive. I just have that laugh. You can tell it's me by the sound of it. And after the ceremony, you always stay behind and you clean up. It's usually they take turns each day. Some days it's the turtles and wolves, and then other days it's the other side of the house. So that was a day it was turtles and wolves, so we stayed back, and I made sure to extra clean and kind of redeem myself from my little our little situation that happened where everybody could hear me and my friends laughing outside. And I remember one of the faith keepers came up, and he was an older man, and he's like, "Oh, was that you outside laughing?" And at first I thought, oh no, I'm gonna get like a talking to, or a lesson or something. And he's like, "Oh no, like it was nice to hear that laughter, that the medicine behind the laughter, just hearing how happy you guys are." And he was talking about how with Longhouse, because we want to make sure we do the ceremonies correctly and give thanks the way we are supposed to give thanks, and make sure that everything's done while we're there. It can get pretty serious at times, and it can be I'm not sure the word for it, but it can get pretty serious because you have the procedures you have to do, you have a timeline you're trying to get it done in. So when you hear people laughing and talking and enjoying themselves, it's what makes everybody feel good, and it's just that extra medicine that just warms you up. And I know for COVID and being on lockdown, I haven't been able to go home and go to ceremonies because of this. And I think that's just one of the things that I love most about Midwinter, and what I miss most is being there with your community. And when you're there, it really feels like your family, your extended family. Everybody. You walk in, everybody's saying hi. And even if you don't know anybody, you're still saying hi, you're still welcomed. And it's such a nice feeling. You walk in and it feels like this beautiful, warm ray of light just wraps you in positive energy. And, when you leave, you're radiating that. It's so powerful, and it's such good medicine. And I think that's really what Midwinters is about, is renewing yourself and bringing, if you do have any negative energy on you, or, you've been really down, you've been in the slums, you're having a hard time picking yourself up. That's what Midwinters is for, is to renew those ashes and to bring yourself back. And there's no really feeling or words to describe the feeling that you feel after being at ceremony, after being in the Longhouse. And even the food is so made with love. And for a long time, my Auntie Val was the cook in the cookhouse, and she would be in there, and you would see her from time to time come in to get a few rounds in for a dance, or make sure everything is going good. She always made sure that the singers, the people who were singing a Stoa Goa, made sure they had strawberry juice, and whatever else they needed. But you can just tell the love she had for her community, and that came out through her food. And that was also good medicine too. Sadly, she passed away last year, so it's going to be a little bit different going back to Longhouse. I haven't been back since she's been gone. But it's okay, because even when you're in Longhouse too, you feel that connection with your ancestors, with the people who have passed on. And you know, when you're doing a Stoic Goa, you know, the first round is for the creator, and then the second round is for, you know, the clan mothers, faith keepers, and then, you know, everyone else goes up. But that first round that you do for, you know, Sogoya Diesel, the creator, you feel like everybody else is there. Like, I can't even describe how it felt, you know, going back to Longhouse after my grandmother passed, because I felt like she was there. And that's what a lot of people say about it, is that it feels like whoever has passed on is still there with you. And it's another way that you can connect with them. And if you're missing them, you know, it feels good going to Longhouse, because that's your way of connection. That's the way you can feel their presence with you one more time. And, you know, I really think that's what Midwinters embodies and is supposed to give forward. So going more into the Midwinter teachings, just a general outline. You know, the first, like I said, it goes into 7 days, and in the next video I'll kind of talk more about what each 7-day is and the reason behind it and the teachings behind it. But it's 7 days, and it's a ceremony that we do to give thanks to everything and to renew. Before the ceremony takes place, we have the big heads, is what they're called. They usually go house to house, and, you know, when they get out of their vehicles, they walk up to your house and they start singing. And they are usually carrying like a pail of ashes, and they bring the ashes into your home, and, you know, they speak in Mohawk, and what they're saying to you is, you know, they're inviting you to Midwinters, you and your family, to come, bring your good mind, and, you know, to get ready for it. And then, you know, they'll take their paddles, and what they do is stir the ashes, but they usually, you know, what that means is you put the paddle in and you lift some ashes up, and then you let it drop back into, you know, the tray or the bucket of ashes that they bring, and then they go back out to their vehicles. And the reason they do that usually like a few days in advance, because you need to prepare for Midwinters in a way. You have to make sure you're bringing at least something to contribute. You know, when I say, you know, that my grandma Val was a cook in the Longhouse, it didn't mean that, you know, she bought everything and prepared. It was what everyone brought, you know, that day. That's what she would make the soup out of, whatever vegetables. You know, usually they have corn brought in, you know, ash washed corn, and strawberries for strawberry drink. You have people that would make their own fry bread or scones and bring it to Longhouse, and that's what they would share. You know, it was always a treat. So, you know, when the food time comes, it's usually near the end of the ceremony. You know, after everyone's doing their talking, the dancing, the songs and everything, is when you sit down and you have a meal all together. I think is one of my favorite parts, because that's when, you know, you feel so good. You feel so good after all the speaking. You feel good after all the dancing and listening to the songs, and just being there with your community and your Longhouse, your family. And then everybody's sitting around eating together, and they're talking and laughing, and you just feel this good energy just radiating off of everybody, and it's a beautiful feeling. You know, and to know that everybody in the Longhouse contributed to the meal that you're eating is also another, you know, good feeling as well. So when they're bringing around the bread basket, they assign men, you know, they'll assign usually 2 men, and they'll go around and pass out, you know, bread to everybody. And, you know, there's always different pieces. If it's if it's bigger pieces, my Auntie Val would, you know, cut it up and put it in the bread basket. Or if they're smaller, she'll leave them. And, you know, and then they bring the soup in, and you're in line for your soup. And, you know, in my Longhouse, we had 2 lines where we had, you know, the turtles and wolf line, and then you had the bears on the other side. And they always joked because, you know, when you're looking for a partner in life, you always look, you know, on the other end of the longhouse. So they always joke that when you're in your soup lines, when you're going to find your soulmate. And you know, I remember be standing in line, you know, me and my cousins would be standing in line, and if any guy our age or anything would stand near us and we, you know, would start talking or smiling at each other or whatever, my grandma always thought like, oh, when's the hash? Because, you know, that's what usually people make for weddings, was hash. So that's just, you know, kind of an intro to midwinter ceremonies. And like I said, next week we'll go into what each day means, kind of the general topics of them all and the teachings for you guys.